Hello 8th grade and welcome to Studio 37 Remote Learning. For this very first lesson, we're going to be dealing with non-objective art. So in this lecture, I will address the three major categories all visual art can be divided into, what makes them different, and then we're going to examine the art of Wassily Kandinsky, the Russian-born artist who credits himself for coming up with the non-objective art tradition. I have my doubts about that, however, he says I will tell you his story. So please follow along, take notes, watch it again if you missed something. Also, I hope you all have had a chance to get the supplies that you need. If not, please reach out to me here at Studio 37 and I will make sure you have all the material necessary for you to be successful in art this year. I hope you enjoy this video and I hope you come to an understanding of what non-objective art is and where it comes from and why it was created. Stay tuned. Non-objective painting, I want to make sure we're clear about the three categories all art can be divided into. The first and easiest to remember and recognize would be representational art. This is art that looks real. As this oil painting by Caravaggio illustrates, artists can make things look extremely real. That is called representational art. The next is abstract. Abstract is art that doesn't look real, but you can tell what it is. So the portrait on the right is of a friend of mine named Todd Jones, and I completed this work myself in 2009. So again, you can tell he has a guitar, you can tell it's a dude, you can tell there's a city behind him, doesn't look real. Non-objective art is art without any recognizable objects whatsoever. This is an oil paint or a painting with industrial paint by Jackson Pollock, very famous American painter. Non-objective, no recognizable objects. So it is representational art, art that looks real. This is a portrait by artist Kandinsky. Abstract art, art that doesn't look real, but you can tell what it is. This is a portrait or a painting or a collage, of Eve underneath the tree of knowledge. And of course, you can tell it's a tree of knowledge because she's reaching for the fruit. There's the snake tempting her. This was made by artist Wangechi Muto. And again, non-objective. This is a piece of pop art by artist Bridget Riley. Kind of hard to look at, so we're going to move on. Representational art. This is a marble sculpture made by the artist Bernini, the Baroque artist. This is in the 1600s. He made this with files, chisels, and hammers, and a great big piece of marble. But it looks extremely real. Representational. Abstract. This is a sculpture by the mid-20th century artist Augusta Savage. Again, you can tell it's a choir of people singing. See, it's also kind of a harp. They're also being held up by hand, but it does not look real whatsoever. Abstract sculpture. And this would be non-objective sculpture made by a 20th century American artist, Louise Nevelson. So I really hope you enjoy her work as well. Now that we know what non-objective art is, now let's take a second and delve into how it got started. As we discuss Kandinsky and his thoughts on how and why to make non-objective art, and how his art changed over time. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about the Russian-born artist Wassily Kandinsky. He is one of the first non-objective artists. He does claim to be the first. He started painting kind of late in his career. His parents sent him to school to be a lawyer, and he never did really settle with that. So he started painting at about 30, and he joined a group called Blue Rider in Germany. And then he got a job a little later in 1922 working at the Bauhaus, which is one of the world's most important art schools there ever was, because it was a school where art, design, architecture, and engineering all worked together to create a curriculum to instruct the designers of the future. This is an early painting done by Kandinsky. It is called Couples Writing. As you can tell, it's an abstract painting of a couple. There's Moscow in the background, very beautiful colors, or very kind of soft palette. And he claims that one day he walked into his studio and saw this painting upside down, and it was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen in his life because he couldn't recognize what it was, but it was still breathtaking. And so this, ladies and gentlemen, is what Kandinsky claims to have started the non-objective art that has really it's still around today. So when he was with Blue Rider and thinking about these ideas, he made paintings that looked a lot like this. Just about color and shape. A lot of these times they're called improvisations, and I will tell you why shortly. So I think this one right here is called improvisation number 26, I do believe. So he painted quite a few of these paintings. He was very, very prolific as an artist. So why and how would he defend making art void of object, void of subject matter, or void of content? Well, he had three things he would tell people. He was trying to create visual jazz. He was doing this kind of art right as the jazz movement was taking off in America and sweeping through Europe. So just like there's happy songs and sad songs and scary songs and moody songs and angry songs, he thought you could do the same thing with a paintbrush. And he was doing this right at the end of World War I. Now, World War I was devastating for the entire world. I mean, all of Europe was ravished, cities were just blown to smithereens, and World War I was really the first modern war there ever was. They started off on horseback, and they ended up in tanks and in airplanes with mustard gas and bombs. It was a pretty scary time. So he really wanted to see an end of war, and he thought if he could make a painting where everybody could see the same thing, that could bring about unity and understanding and peace. And if he could do that, he would, in fact, metaphorically have captured the face of God. In the portrait I created, Ode to Todd Jones, to show you what I mean by people approach art differently. When I see this portrait, I see one of my favorite pieces that I've made, which brings a little pride to me. I also see a picture of one of my best friends who I have memories with since I was 7 years old. There's no way any of you looking at this picture can see the same thing. Some of you might see this and see a wild, crazy, neat piece of artwork made by one of the strangest teachers you've ever had. Maybe this will bring back fun memories of making collages and learning about Romar Bearden. Maybe it'll bring back terrible memories of how much you don't like art class. Whatever the case may be, each and every one of us has a different experience that when we view this piece of art, it's prevalent. Whereas if you create something something like this, of course this is done by American artist Mark Rothko, who he wasn't as interested in the ideas as Kandinsky was. He was more interested in color and how colors interact. But nonetheless, we all see the orange rectangle at the bottom. We all see the lighter orange square above it and the field of orange around it. Now, Kandinsky was of the feeling that if he could have something where we all saw the exact same thing, it would bring about peace, understanding, and unity. Unfortunately, you guys probably know World War II was what was to come of our future rather than peace, understanding, and unity. But before World War II started, Kandinsky did get a job working at the world-renowned Bauhaus in Germany. This was a school where artists and designers and engineers and architects all kind of worked together to create to design furniture, to build structure, to make paintings. And as Kandinsky worked here with these more mathematically minded people, his artwork started to change. It went from the looser, more free improvisations to what he later called compositions. Compositions are much more geometric. They're cleaner. There's crisp edges. You can tell he's using drawing tools such as a ruler and a protractor and French curves to create these works. I'll let you sit with this for a minute. So I hope you see how his artwork radically differed depending on what environment he was with. When he was with the young and wild Blue Rider, his paintings were young, brash, wild. And now that he's with the more engineer mind, the more design mind, the more composition-oriented people, his paintings take on a clear, more precise edge. All right, guys, thank you for your time and attention. I hope you enjoyed that video. The takeaways I want you to get out of this is the expressive quality of line and color, how to use art medium to evoke emotion. I also want you to think about how Kandinsky's work changed as he worked for the Bauhaus in Germany, how it went from loose and expressive to clean and clear and crisp. And just like as Kandinsky's people that he had around him had an impact on his artwork, the people that you surround yourself with will have an impact on you. So make wise choices when it comes to that. Your assignment for this week is to create 3 pieces of art. One that expresses joy and happiness, one that expresses anger and frustration, and one that is sad. These don't have to be huge, and I just want you to experiment with your material and creating emotion. Now remember, these are not objective works, so the only things I want you to use in these pieces are line, shape, and color. The challenge is to make one that is happy, one that is angry, and one that is sad. These will be due next Monday. And keep up the good work. Nothing but love from Studio 37.